And we are back, another version of the Dirty South podcast. It's good to be back in the seat. And Van, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. I'm eager to talk about these next eight teams and this incredibly thrilling playoff run we're going through.
We have got an interesting playoff thing, and it's good to be back in the seat. Thank you, Kelly, for sitting in the last couple of episodes. I'm telling you, I don't know if we're going to quite reach that hour and a half, 3 hours that you guys have done for the first couple ones, but we're going to try. We're going to still get the in-depth version of what's going on in the SIBA League and what is coming up in the future, which is what you're great at, Van, looking at all these teams and the teams that have not with us anymore in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think we're going to get more and more time efficient as we go along. As we get higher in the pecking order, there are fewer future questions for these teams. I think we went an hour and 20 the first, 50
Whew.
minutes the second. Maybe we can do 45 minutes today, but I don't want to set unrealistic goals.
We'll see. We'll see where we get. I do say it was a very enjoyable listen. Both of those things, very informative. You guys were spot on all of your kind of looking into these teams and all your everything that you got in your heads that I think some of these owners are going to take going forward in the offseason. We'll see if they listen or they don't, or they do their own thing. I don't know. It could go either way.
We're going to start tonight after we do our playoff recap with a team that has never taken a bit of my advice and has done very well for not listening to me. So there's definitely more ways to go than what I can think of.
There's definitely more than one ways to go. But let's take a look at what has happened already because the playoffs are still in progress, and we are well into round two. We've had the first couple games of round two going in, but a recap of the first round of the playoffs. It was extremely interesting with four games going the full distance. Game seven. It was well, I just couldn't believe that when I saw four games or eight teams went to game seven. That's got to be a
It
record
was
with SIBA.
absolutely incredible. And we got a lot of stuff wrong in our first playoff preview. But one thing we did get right was that the top of the West was really strong and anything could happen in the East.
And that is exactly what happened. The one seed Coyotes, the two seed Outlaws, the three seed Mamba, and the five seed Stampede advanced to the second round in the Western Conference. So, hey, like you said, anything can happen, but not in the Western Conference.
Right. Yeah, the only upset was the 5 beating the 4, and they went into the, playoffs tied with 50 wins for each, so it was a some sort of, line that made them decide who was 4 and 5, but it could easily have been the other way around.
It could have been, and in that one, I took Phoenix in our. We won't even talk about our draft because you have demolished me. I mean, it's already over. I did the math, and I figured out there was one way that I could get there. It was if the Mamba swept the Outlaws, if the my series goes all the way to the to four
Championship.
three. Yeah, 4-3, and then the Mamba play whoever wins my series in the finals, and that one goes 7 games. That's the only way I could have won, and it's not happening. So
It's not happening because the Mamba will not sweep.
they will not. So you got those coming in the forward. We had, like I said, all those in the Eastern Conference. It was just chaos, and
Chaos.
it's exactly as you said. Any team could win. And it's kind of giving me deja vu to 2 seasons ago because this is exactly what happened 2 seasons ago when I was the four seed, I believe. We had an eight seed, we had a six seed, we had a seven seed, and then we had me in there as the four seed. And I was like, woohoo, I'm going straight to the finals. And what happened? I got swept that year in the second round by the eight seed. And this year, it's a little bit similar. I'm the two seed, so I got through barely by the skin of my chinny
Mhm.
chin chin. And then we have a five seed, a six seed, and an eight seed in the second round. It is just chaos, and it looks like it still may be chaos going forward.
Could very well be. You were the only higher seeded team to win in the first round in the East. And then in the second round, um, the Coyotes and Outlaws have gone up 2-0. As much as I like the Mamba, with their incredible injury woes right now, basically every power forward on the roster is hurt, and none of them will be back before the series is over. Um, I think the son's going to outstrip the father in that series. It's the way it's looking right now.
Yeah, this will be 2 years in a row that the Mamba have been hit by injuries at the worst time with Whitlaw and Wright both getting injured, and those are two very key members of this team. It's going to be real tough for them to survive this
It will be,
tournament.
but at least the series is shifting to LA, so that might get a little home court magic there.
They might be able to. As you said, the 1 and the 2 seed in the West are up 2-0. My Atlanta Attack are up 2-0 on the Vandals, but it has been a lot closer than that. I mean, those
Yeah,
two games were, whew, they were about as close as you can get. So I don't think the Vandals, I don't think Memphis is going to go away that easy. I think that they will stick around, and I think they're going to win a couple games in the series. And then the 5 versus 4, you got the New Jersey Hoops and the Silverbacks. They're tied at 1 with, again, two close games going on. And that one I could see going all the way to 7.
yeah, and that's actually an 8 versus 4.
Yeah,
Philadelphia continues their incredible run from the 10 seed who got in on the last day of the regular season through the play-in tournament, upset of the Metros in the first round, and they're up 1-1, and they've stolen a game from New Jersey.
yep, they have as those first two games have gone. New Jersey did win the last game, 124-107. So maybe they've righted the ship after losing the first game, 120-101. So again, it's tough to say. I mean, even the close games in the West. I mean, Kansas City only won by 1 point in game number 1. So it's still
It's
it's not
good.
over. Nothing's
Yeah.
over yet. These playoffs, anything can happen, and we've seen before where the team that's up 2-0 has blown leads like that in the past. So it's
Yeah.
could happen here to any of these teams that are up 2-0.
Yeah, especially with home court shifts happening everywhere. I am going to be fascinated watching this New Jersey Philadelphia series because I think Maurice and Penny are two of the best tacticians in the league. And I think their chess match in each break between games when they get to readdress their rotations and strategies are going to be fascinating.
They really are, and I'm looking forward to it as well, seeing how the rest of these playoffs unfold. Now, there are 8 more teams that have now looking forward, looking past the postseason now, and looking into the offseason. And that's where we are going to really see the bulk of this show today as we go over the 8 teams that are no longer with us in the playoffs. And Van, where do you want to start?
We're going I had set in reverse order of finish, so we're going to tackle the teams in as they left the regular season. So that means our first team today will be Columbus, the team I mentioned before, where Robbie ignores me every time and he's right every time. We did a Young Cores podcast, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, and I questioned whether they had enough top end talent in that core. And now that core is power forward Avgustin Zamkrachinov, shooting guard Mike Lemons, center Grigoris Neviazevsky, and point guard Martinos Demosthenes. And they are all, I believe, 24 and under, all very exciting. And I can't wait to see what happens. They made it into the playoffs as a 7 seed, won their way in, and as you mentioned before, gave you all you could handle in the first round.
Hey, can you pronounce that shooting guard again? Is that Mike Lemons? Is that how it
Mike
is? Is that
Lemons, I think could be Lemons, but I'm pretty sure it's Lemons. Thank you for asking only about that one. Now, of that four, Lemons and they have a rotation wing named Robert Grundy, who are free agents. They're the only free agents making more than the minimum. So for decisions, I said there's not really many. There's a young team. There's plenty of internal development possible, and they are under the cap next year, if marginally. So my question will be really, can they get Lemons back on a reasonable deal? He made just a hair under 30 million. He's a strong starting shooting guard though, so somebody might come in and try to offer more than that. And then more long term, power forward Greg Boyth is one of their best young players, but they already have Zemgrachinov and Neviazevsky on the team. Can the three of them coexist, or do they need to try to move Boyth or Zemgrachinov, one of the two, for a wing prospect? And to
Mhm.
do that, they'll have the MLE, all of their own picks, and an extra first and second over the next few years. What stood out to you when you looked at Columbus?
Well, I mean, Lemons is an unrestricted free agent, so that will be the key decision in the offseason. Will they be able to bring him back? Like you said, a reasonable contract. Someone may throw a lot of money at him because he has been very good the last couple of seasons, 15.3 points a game. He can shoot from the outside. I mean, he has got it. So
Yeah,
do
he
they
is
need him?
blisteringly hot from the outside, and he is a fantastic defensive player.
He is. So the true classic 3 and D guy. And the question really is he going to be is he necessary to come back, or can you fill in the gaps? I mean, they have a young McCaffrey. Is he good enough? He's definitely not the same level as Lemons, and he really, I mean, he is kind of one of those end of the bench guys. So that's really the only other shooting guard on their roster. Is that going to be enough to fill in the gaps, or do they need to make that big push to get Lemons back?
Yeah, they can pay him whatever they want. They've got full bird rights on him, but they do have a lot of young players whose contracts will be coming up soon. So I know Robbie's going to want to be mindful of future cap problems as he figures out the best price to get Lemons. He does seem to be on very good terms with the organization and his teammates and coach. So hopefully
Mhm.
that plays in their favor. But as I recommend to everybody, figure out what your get out price is and have that firmly decided and a plan B in mind if it goes too high. Without him, they can find an MLE level player to replace him, but that player is unlikely to be the defender or the shooter that Lemons is.
Yep. And they do have Nevezetsky signed for 3 more years. They do have Demisios. I messed that one up, but he's signed for 3 more years. And then they do have, I'm not even going to try DZ as our faithful leader Kelly calls him. Well, he's got 3 more years on his rookie contract, and then he's an RFA. So they do have those three core players signed for 3 more years. That is
Yeah,
a
it's
good core
really
to be
2 years
building
from
around.
now that Lemons'
Yeah.
contract could get complicating if he
Mhm.
gets too much money.
Yeah, because that's when they're going to have to kind of rejigger everything. But like you said, they do have the cap space, and they can kind of maneuver around it. There is maneuverability, and of course, like you said, they have their own picks and an extra first and second round pick coming up, so they can get some more young players. And when you're trying to keep those older players and re-sign these players, having the young players in there really makes it a lot easier because you get those rookie contracts that are more manageable. So this is definitely a team that's on the rise, that's on the way up, and they're going to cause some trouble going forward in the Eastern. I don't think we're going to see them in too many play-in games coming up. I think they're going to be
Yeah,
firmly in the
agreed.
playoffs going forward.
Yeah, and I will say just one last tip with the cap to Robbie. He does a great job managing his cap and spending money on the right guys and not overspending on anybody. There's no white elephant contracts on this team
No,
where
no.
he would have to he would get value for anybody on this team if he decided to
Yeah.
move them.
Like I say, he's got a couple $30 million contracts going forward, but none of those obscene $50+ million contracts,
That's
which
nothing
when
like
we
what
get,
I'm going to have to offer Luke Blakemore in a few
yeah,
weeks.
which, like I say, when we get to my team, you, it's not looking good going forward. I better win it this year because maybe in trouble going forward. But we're not talking about us. We're talking about these other teams right now.
Yes. And moving on from Columbus, the next team on my list is New Orleans. New Orleans finished the year 41 and 41, eighth in the West. Made it through the play-in tournament and then lost to Kansas City in 6 games in the 1-8 matchup. They were 49 and 33 the previous season, but they were projected to finish 12th, so this does count as another overachievement for them. The
Mhm.
core players on the team, Cruz Sanchez, a small forward, it will probably be the key to what this team's ceiling is. Fantastic pick at number 15. He has all the tools to be the main man for the team. My question would be, is he really a small forward at that height and without the shot, or do they need to transition into thinking of him more as a power forward? Point guard Hamilton Tracy has developed nicely and was another steal at the end of the draft 5 years ago. He's already into his second contract, but is he the kind of floor general you want? Kelly Asbury made life miserable for our commissioner in the first round. He was complaining about him last pod. Classic 3 and D guy, so you just need to have the right parts around him. Tracy Asbury, and they have a team option on Okagbari for contract decisions. Um, Again, Chris Sanchez looks like the real deal, but is he the centerpiece of a team, or is he a second or third option? Just something they need to decide and figure out how they're going to invest in his development. And should they resign, or are they going to exercise Okagbari's option? And should they resign center Owens, former number one pick, and small forward Chad Fisher, lottery pick and injured? They don't have a first round pick until 37, and they have about 54 million in cap space for next season if they opt out of all the people on their list. What did you see? I think you did a little more research on this one than I did. I think you led the.
I did, and to be honest, I really like this team. I like the what they got going on in the future. Cruz, of course, stood out to me as just he's an 18-year-old, 15th pick in the last draft, and it's just he's got some upside. He has got a lot of upside that they can realize. The question I always have about him is that he's listed in the game as a small forward. He's 6'11" and has got no outside shot. So can you really be a small forward and do that? I
Yeah,
mean,
he
it's going
reminds
to
me
be.
a lot of old friend of the program, Josh Morris, who's
Mhm.
also a 6'11 small forward with no outside shooting game. You can play him a small forward if your power forward and center can shoot.
Yeah.
But I think most likely he's going to end up as a power forward, even playing
Yeah.
marginally out of position. He's his weight is 216, so he's a little skinny for that, but he can
Mhm.
probably still hold his own in that. I think one of the interesting things as I look over the roster is they have a
Mhm.
lot of players I like that I felt like made
Mhm.
a little bit too much money last year
Mhm.
who are expiring. Larry
Yeah.
Owens, I've always enjoyed. Chad
Mhm.
Fisher is good. The Turkish guy who Caro, who I'm not going to try to
Mhm.
pronounce his name. I've enjoyed those
Karasamanglu.
guys. Uh,
Mhm.
as you know, Abezi Okagbari is my favorite player in the history of the league. But at
Yes.
his age, 37.6 is probably a little bit more than he needs.
Mhm.
But I see nothing at all wrong with trying to bring everybody back. Just bring them back for less money than they made this year.
Yeah, Okabare is definitely starting that slow decline, and so he's still got value. There's no doubt about that. But yes, like you said, 37 million, is that too much? Hmm, I don't know. And that's what the option is for next year. He would still be the highest paid player on the team. And you got some other guys that are probably more worthy of that than Okabare at this point in his career, I'd say.
Absolutely. And as much as I love him, he is a career 24.5% three-point shooter. So he is not the complement to Cruz
Mhm.
Sanchez you might want if they're going to be your starting pair. And like I think he's moving into a point in his career where he's probably like the best six man in the league, rather than being
Mhm.
someone you want to count on to play 32 minutes a game and take that pounding.
Yeah, with that said, that they're probably going to need to go out and get another big man for this team, as the guys that they currently have. Like you said, Owens is on an expiring contract. That leaves you with
Kinzer's
Crowley.
expiring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Crowley is your center, and he's just has not yet progressed to the point where he can be a starting center in the league. He's still kind of in that backup range. He's young,
Yeah, he
only
still
20.
looks like profiles like a high
Mhm.
end starter, but I don't
Yep,
think
yep.
he's
He's
ready.
not there.
But if you could bring
Yeah.
Larry Owens back for 25 next year or 20
Yep.
as your bridge, see if you can develop
Mhm.
somebody else. Just save that
Yeah.
money and continue to build around the margins like this team has done so well in the past.
Yep, yep. So, like I said, I like this team. I think there's a lot of upside. I think there's a lot of future in this team. But yes, I got to get those complementary pieces around the stars, and you got to have Sanchez just continue to be on that upward trajectory to really make it and get this team to the next level.
What a steal at 15! And isn't that around where Giannis went in the real draft?
I think so. I believe
Yeah,
so.
another 6'11" small forward for you who can't shoot from
Yep,
the
yep,
outside.
yep,
Probably not a
exactly.
bad comp if you're New Orleans to think that maybe I've got our Giannis on the team.
Yep, and it took Giannis a couple years to really figure it all out, but when he did, whoo, he still
Absolutely.
is one of the best.
That brings us to San Diego Captains, the team of our producer, Soph. They were 49 and 33, seventh in the West, and they lost in seven to OKC in the 2-7 matchup. They were 42 and 40 the previous year, expected to finish seventh, so right on. They made a ton of changes from a team built around center DJ Ding to bringing in young star Mickey Alexander at cost. I'd say their core right now is shooting guard Nick LaRue, power forward Mickey Alexander, and small forward Bruno Jerome, a former number one overall, who did not develop as hoped, but is still a very solid SIBA player. Uh, Alexander and LaRue are all you could need to build around, and Jerome's a step down, but still very good. But is that enough, really, to keep climbing the ladder? LaRue, Jerome, Eddie Jones on a player option, and small forward MJ Page are contract decisions they're going to have to make this offseason. Um, right now, they have 52.1 million in free agent money if they don't re-sign anyway. But Mickey Alexander has got to be re-signed, and I can't imagine that Soph will not show up with every cent that Alexander could possibly be paid in hopes of getting him on a 5-year deal instead of a 3+1 cost stability, and that 25% max is way less than the 30% max. So I think that's where he'll go. Plus, he gave up 3 first-round draft picks and a stud center to get him. You can't lose the guy after that.
No, you
Um,
really can't.
they don't have any 2035 picks, but they have Indiana's first in 36 and New Jersey's in 37, and 3 second-round picks in those 2 seasons. They also have a number of recent draft picks, such as Jeffries, Andrews, Marley, and Boryachevsky, that they could use to potentially make some trades. What
Mhm.
jumped out at you about Soph's team here?
Well, the one thing going forward is the RFAs. I mean, Alexander is a must sign, and he's a restricted free agent going into the offseason. You just have to get someone of his quality, and you got to keep him on your team. You can't just let him walk for absolutely nothing. And the fact that he's an RFA, I mean, like you said, they got bird rights, so they can offer more, and they can match anything that is thrown at him. So I can't see him walking away in free agency to another team. I think he'll be there, but that's going to take a chunk of that 51 or 52 million that you have
Yeah,
available for next year. I mean, it's going to cost. It's going to cost to get Alexander back in the captain's uniform next year. And then you a little bit lower down, but still important. You got Hurd and Rowe, who are also restricted free agents, and a center and a power forward. So two of your big men. What do you want to do there? Is Eddie Johns enough? I mean, Eddie Johns was a former Atlanta attack, very solid center in the league, but is he good enough? Like I made the choice. He just wasn't worth the amount of money that you had to pay for him. But it's 17 million next year with a player option. I mean, it may not be Soph's option there. It may be John's. John's may decide, hey, I'm coming back, and you got to deal with it.
yeah.
Um, is that
And I
enough
think
in the
that
middle?
really complicates the Gary Hurd restricted free agency as well.
It does.
John is a capable, you know, 20th to 30th best center in the league, somewhere in there. And
Mhm.
17 million is completely respectable.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and Soph could, if he picks up that player option, I think that's going to be one of the most fascinating decisions because he's basically making mid-level money as a starter.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
if I were him, I would be tempted to opt out of that and see if I could get paid as a starter instead of paid as a reserve. But as we've mentioned many times, center is the most replaceable position in SIBA.
Hmm. Yep.
There's also a strong argument for a player who's 28 years old and has had some injury problems over his career to
Mhm.
lock in and make sure he makes that money.
Yep, yep. I could definitely see him looking for that big contract here, but in the past he hasn't been able to get it. So what's going to say he's going to get it now is he's a little bit older, and he may just want to take the safe 17 million and just say,
Yeah,
"Hey, I got 17 million in my bank account."
yeah. Great offensive rebounder. Not
Yeah,
as
I mean,
good as you want him to be
yeah.
in many other parts of the game.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely he has his pluses, but there's other stuff, and like you said before, like we said on the last couple teams, the big decisions are coming, not next season, but the season after that, because that's when Larue and Jerome are free agents, and maybe Johns as well if he picks up the option. He's got a number of players that are done after next season, so it's kind of a make or break year next year. And so the question is, does he want to put all the chips into the middle and make it happen next year, or Are you going to just wait and see what happens, re-sign Alexander, and then retool in 2036? That's the big question for
Yeah,
San Diego.
absolutely. And Sof's a bit of a gambler, right? And the LaRue and Mickey Alexander are not necessarily on the same timeline to be your top two players. And that's a big salary slot. So I would not be shocked if LaRue was on the move for someone a little closer to Alexander in timeline this offseason. But Sof keeps it
Mm-hmm.
close to the vest. So we'll have to see what he does
You're
there.
saying there could be some trades in the future, is what you're trying to say.
I am. I am.
Mm-hmm.
That brings us
Good.
to Portland, who was 50 and 32, sixth in the West, and lost in four to the LA Mamba. They were 45 and 37 and projected to be ninth, so a bit of an overachievement this season for them. Their core, I would say, are power forward Jamar DeGray, point guard Finn Vandenberg, small forward Stefan Skorpinski, and center Boogie Dudley. Um, who's under contract? They have a they have an option on Vandenberg, but I seem to recall in the transaction column they have already declined that. So I don't know if they're trying to move on, free some space to move on, or get him
Mm-hmm.
back on a deal more commensurate with his age and slight decline. He was the same draft class as Okagbari, so I can see an
Mm-hmm.
argument for trying to pay him a little bit less than that. It'll be interesting to see.
Yep.
Dudley is an unrestricted free agent who I am sure he expects to get paid this offseason as a strong
Mm-hmm.
defensive starting center. Otherwise, everyone. Um, I'm sorry, I'm fumbling my notes here. I got to pull this up and look at it myself here.
Yeah, man, they got a lot of unrestricted free agents
Oh
this
yeah,
offseason. Yeah, they got a
Skorpinski,
lot.
DeGray,
Mhm,
Wilcox, and Zakauskas are the only people above minimums that are
mhm.
absolutely guaranteed to come back. So there
Yep.
could be quite a bit of turnover on this roster, and
Mhm.
including Finn Vandenberg.
Yep, yep, yeah. No, if they move on from Finn Vandenberg, that's another 45 million that they will have
Yeah,
available for next season. I think we're seeing a theme as we go through these teams. We get
it
further and
still
further
only
on.
leaves them about 65 million, and
Yeah,
that only
there's
gives
a
them five players under contract.
Yeah,
Whew.
this off season is going to be very, very interesting in the free agent market because there's a lot of teams that have a lot of money that they can throw at free agents this off season. If you are a free agent in SIBA, make sure you bring that Brinks truck and get it filled up because it's coming this off season. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, right now with Finn Vandenberg, there are only 8 million under the cap with six players on the roster. Um, They desperately need Dudley, but how much can they afford to pay them? They've
Mhm.
been flirting with the second apron for a while. They've lost draft picks over it, which has undermined the depth a little bit. Um, they've got to basically build a team around Skrapinski and DeGray with not a
Mhm.
whole lot of money. So I think the tools at hand. This is verbatim what I wrote down as I was doing it. Hopes, prayers, ring chasers, and sign and trades. They have a
Mhm.
bottom half of a pick swap in 2037 and their own 2037 second, and that's it for draft equity.
Yep.
So may need to do some soul searching about do they want to stay this expensive or make some serious adjustments to their roster.
Yeah, it's kind of making me wonder what you're going to say when we get to the Atlanta attack, hopefully at the end of this whole thing. But because mine looks about as ugly as this one does. There's going to be some hopes and prayers and some other stuff going on after this season's over. But I will say, like you look at DeGray and Savinsky, you do have the start of something there. So there, it's not like it's totally hopeless. You'd had a team that won 50 games this year. If they lose Dudley, they still have a couple centers on the roster, and there are a couple young centers on the roster. And like you said, center is easily one of the easy ones you can kind of piece together if you need to. So it's not totally lost. They still have the ability to make something happen here.
I have felt for seasons, I think we talked about this one of our first pods we did, whenever that was,
Mhm.
that there is a financial reckoning coming for SIBA centers. There's a lot of
Okay.
centers in the league making 25 to $35 million, and
Yep.
there is no justifiable market reason why any of them. I think there's five guys in the league who should be making 35 million plus,
Yep.
and then
Mhm.
otherwise like every center in the league should be on a mid-level contract right now because it's just finding the guy that fits your team. They're hard to differentiate beyond that.
That has been my strategy for the last couple of seasons. Find a center,
Well,
it's on mid level, and then hope and pray that they work out.
that was my plan until Luke Blakemore became available, and I was like,
Yeah, I got
I
to pay.
feel like he's one of the few worth it. But
Yeah,
hope I could be wrong. That could be a total team building mistake.
could
That
be.
brings us to Detroit, who finished 50 and 32, fourth in the least, where they were upset by the New Jersey Hoops in 7 games in the first series. They were 34 and 48, so a 16 game improvement and projected to finish
Mhm.
seventh. So quite a year for Detroit. Their core players, I would say, are power forward Rasheem Lopez, point guard Steve Dimery, and center Will Gittens. Dimery is the only free agent in the team, and if I've following the transaction notes, they are actively involved in trying to get him re-signed to an extension. So for
Mhm.
decisions to be made, I said, will point guard Trayvon Kenna, who was the sixth overall pick 2 years ago, develop faster than Dimery ages? The team is super deep, but is there enough high-end talent? In other words, what I'm saying, I think they have a team that can win 50 games for the next 5 years. Um,
Mhm.
but unless somebody emerges, that may be their ceiling, the fourth seed like this year.
I
The,
mean, yeah, Kenna could be that person. I mean, he
it could be.
definitely has got the pedigree to be a top end point guard in the league. Again, the
Yeah,
question
he
is,
was
will he
picked
develop into
very
that?
reasonably picked over Larry Piatkowski, who we all love, and
Mhm.
it was not considered a reach at the time. It was a
No.
completely justifiable pick. So he has that kind of potential in him. It just needs to start showing it. Again, like
Mhm.
I said, a little faster than Demery age. My other question is that there are a number of teams, I'm not going to go through his transaction history, who have decided that as good as Rasheem Lopez is, he is more trouble than he's worth. Um, Looks like they have managed that beautifully in Detroit, surrounded him with players that he gels better with than I certainly did when he played for me. But
Mhm.
can they keep the vibes positive with a player who's had as many locker room problems as Lopez has over his career?
I will say with Lopez right now, his team relationship is not the best. He does like the organization, he does like the coach, but the teammates, not so much. So while it may look on the outside like things are going well, it may not be. Who knows?
Yeah. On the other hand, if you can get a player who can score like him for a hair over $30 million a year, that
It's
is
a
some
deal.
some nice contract work.
Mhm. Very nice
Okay.
contract work.
So in order
And
to do
actually,
this, after Demery's resigned, they'll be over the cap but under the tax, most likely, unless Demery goes more than I expect, which will give them the non-taxpayer MLE. They have the bottom half of a pick swap with Indiana in 2 seconds. They're owning Phoenix's this year, and they're pick neutral going in the first and have a few extra seconds to start tinkering on the edges. So again, the question they need to decide is that core can that are they happy being a 50-win team? There's
mhm,
absolutely nothing wrong with being a 50-win team.
it's a lot of
I
wins.
certainly have not gotten there on a great many occasions. But
Mhm.
if they have aspirations beyond that, is this the group of players that can get them there? And if not, what adjustments need to be made to the roster for that?
I mean, and adjustments are going to have to come through trades because everybody is signed for a long time. They've got
Yes.
even a number of people signed through 2038. So some long contracts, some big contracts, but not, like you said, not unmanageable contracts. They're still going to be
No.
under that first apron. So they still are going to have a lot of tools in their tool case for what's coming forward. But if you don't like these, especially if you sign Dimroy after the season, you're going to have everybody signed again. So you're going to run it back, and then you're going to run it back again. And so in the next two to three seasons, is it going to improve? Like you said, is it going to improve over 50? Are you going to get out of the first round of the playoffs? They almost did this year. They got so close. And I know it was frustrating to lose those last three games in the first round, and when it looked like you were scot free going through to the second round. So that's the question: Can is this team going to stay together? Is Lopez going to kind of chip away and deteriorate things from the inside? I don't know. It's like I say, it's tough to kind of see that from the outside. Only the internal people on the team know that. So it's going to be interesting to see how Detroit.
The woman, it's a
Is in that
combustible
offense.
mix.
Yes, yes, but it definitely it could go either way. They could definitely one year just show up and be number one in the East, just like that. I mean, because they do have the talent on this team to do that.
Yep. That brings us to Jacksonville. The Jackals were 51 and 31 for third in the East when they were upset in a 6-game series by Memphis in the first round. They were 37 and 45, so my quick math says that's a 14-win improvement, and they were expected to finish eighth, so big improvement there as well. Who are the core players? Um, that's a really interesting
Everybody.
question. This is team flexibility. DJ
Yep.
Ding unquestionably is the core.
Mhm.
Stanley Townsend has the talent to be part of the core at point guard. Jimmy Chitwood says he needs to be part of it because they need his scoring and shooting around Ding. And then they've got a wealth of rookies: Scott Phillips, Bernie Maycuch, Bogomir Asana, Jaron Cole, Andre Channing, and everybody is under contract. Um,
And that's not an
so
exaggeration. That's
yeah,
everybody is under contract.
so that's one of your first questions. Then they have 3 first-round draft picks this year, and they have a roster where everybody's under contract for next year, which to me makes this a team looking to make a consolidation trade. Excuse me.
Mhm.
Um, Finishing third, they're not many hit. They could just run this back and it'll be good. Why did DJ Ding drop nearly 8 points a game in the playoffs? I think would be my first question. And that could be a million things. It could be something Memphis did that's unique to
Mhm.
Memphis. Is it a limitation to his game? Does he need some help to prevent that in the future? The top 7 players on their team includes 3 centers and 2 point guards, which sounds a little heavy to me. So I
Mhm.
think, and Ryan had done a fantastic job building this team, and he, like our buddy Soph, is happy to make a deal at any point in time. So I would expect a couple of those centers to get dealt this offseason. Again, I think a consolidation trade would be perfect for this. Find an aging team that has a piece that you need and overpay. I mean, they've got picks, they've got contracts, they're
Everything.
not in a bad cap situation. Find the guy you think complements Ding the most and go get him. Decide whether Stanley Townsend or Bernie Maycuch is your point guard of the future, and move the other guy. Um, Maybe some veterans deeper on the bench. I don't know. Just I'm spitballing here, Jeremy. What do you think?
There is. I mean, when I first looked at this team, and I'll be honest, I know you have had some intimate relationships with Jacksonville in the past, but I really hadn't looked in depth into this team. And when I looked at this and saw the young players that they have on this team, the 12 first round draft picks in the next 5 years. Let me repeat that: 12 first round draft picks in the next 5 years. That's just, I mean, that's just stupid. You can have a whole team just from your first round draft picks coming up in the next couple of years. They just have so much flexibility on this team, so many young players. Like you said, their three highest salary players are all centers, so it's perfect for like trading off, getting some more first round draft picks, getting a piece that you need. One of the, like you said, an older piece to kind of bring this team together. Um, I think this team is going to be good for a while if they make the right decisions going forward and
Stunning,
make the right
stunning depth
moves.
of talent on this team.
It
Yeah,
really
they've
is.
got a team option on Marvin Holt that would free up 1 slot, and then they have 1 2-way spot. So
Yeah.
just to roster their picks this year with no moves, they're going to have to decline that option and move 2 people off this team somehow.
Yeah, and I think that even with declining that option, you still have plenty of pieces around here. But I will say Holt is the only power forward that is not in the D League that is on this team. So you're going to have to fill that somehow. But they're like I said, there's a lot of they got three centers. So do they need a power forward when you got three centers and four centers under contract?
Yeah,
Maybe not.
I'm not sure any of them can shoot though.
Yeah. Well, hey, shooting's overrated sometimes. You don't need everybody to be able to shoot.
Yeah,
But you do have DJ Dang getting 27.7 points per game. So I mean, it's just I love this team, and I think that they will be making my life miserable going forward, and making the whole Eastern Division, Eastern Conference, just it's gonna be tough. I project them to be at the top of the East for a good while.
yeah. I just did a quick glance because it amused me. But if you take their top three centers and add their 3-point field goal ratings of the three of them together, it's
Mhm.
25. So
Yeah.
spacing might be one area of growth for the team because
Mhm.
Chitwood's
Yeah, yeah.
the spacing.
Yep, yep, pretty much. Pretty
And
much.
that brings us to Phoenix. We're 75% of the way through. So I don't know how we're doing on time. I'm not going to do that math in my head.
Yeah, that's too much.
Phoenix was 52-30, tied for fourth in the West, and lost 4-0 to Houston in the 4-5 matchup. But as you said, I think you just need to throw that away because they went into that series without Allen Butler and some other injury.
Yeah.
And none of us are winning a first round series with our best player
Nope.
out.
Nope.
Um, they were 62-20 and the champs the previous year and were projected to finish fourth. So the regular season was right on um, as expected. Um, who are the core players? We go through this with each team, and I think it's a more interesting question for Phoenix than for most teams because Phoenix does not believe in continuity the way I do.
Mhm.
Phoenix has also won more titles and made more finals
Mhm.
appearances than I have, so
Mhm.
maybe they're right. They flipped this roster successfully more than anyone. And with a first round exit following four consecutive Final Fours, I hope everybody on this team is leasing because anything could happen. I'd say that point guard Allen Butler, who just completed his 6th year in the Valley of the Sun, and the four-headed center beast of Mike Rhodes, Matt Swanson, Axel Stone, and Will Bartow are the core. Everyone else feels like a solid pro at best. Butler is the only returnee net for next season who makes over $10 million. This organization prizes flexibility and gives out contracts accordingly. They certainly do not make years uh, errors. If they make an error, it's a dollar's error, not a year's error. They are very, very good at that. Point guard Otis Smith and Mike Rhodes are on cheap long-term deals. Swanson and Stone are still in their rookie deals. I can't imagine Bartow comes back just because they have three centers already under contract and they could use his cap room. So my decision would be if your core is Butler and good centers, what are the pieces you need to find to put around that to give them the space to operate that they need to? They have $78 million in cap space, and you know Phoenix will spend deep into the cap if the opportunity
Mhm.
presents itself. And they have three future seconds. Creativity is never in short supply, but the tools are a little thin on the ground right now.
Yeah, it's gonna be. They got a lot of spots to fill on this team for next season, and are they going to be able to get them all in there? But Butler making 61 million, but no one else is making over 10 million on the team. So they do have a little bit of flexibility. You're going to need to get a little bit more firepower though to get stay at the top of the West though, and Butler's not going to be able to do it by himself.
Yeah, absolutely. If I had to guess, I would say you're going to see something along the lines of Bartow renounced, like a $35 million deal to somebody who can complement probably a wing player. And then nobody does better than Phoenix at scavenging off the league minimum contracts at the end of the free agency period. So I think you'll probably see like a $35 million signing, a $15 million signing, and then a bunch of guys that you say, how on earth did you get a player that good at that price?
Yep, yep. And there's always one or two at the end of free agency that you're just like, oh, how did I miss that? How did I not be in on that guy? And you're just kind of like, oh, I should have looked a little closer, all that stuff.
Yeah,
And Phoenix does not miss. They
yeah,
hit those guys every single season. I will say I do. OJ Smith is on this team. He was on my team for a while, and he was one of those guys that it needed to be more than just a role player. I knew he could do more, and he has with Phoenix. He's been a delight to watch over there, and they got him signed for a couple more seasons
Yep.
because he can play that number two guard as well as being the number one guard as well, and that they just kind of put him in that position. So they're using him exactly as I would have used him on that team. So and then you got, like I said, Rose and Swanson and Stone. So they got some centers in there. What do they put around these guys? I know they'll be there. I'm not worried about that. I just wish Butler would not have been hurt in the playoffs, and I may have done better in our little pick'em thing because I put a lot of faith in Phoenix, and they did let me down this year.
Well, no more than they let themselves down. I'm sure they're
Yeah.
feeling. That brings us to our final team of this podcast, which is the New York Metros, who were 56 and 26, first in the East. Lost in 7 to Philly in the first round. And speaking of our luck in the playoff wins draft, they are the highest picked team to be eliminated. I picked them, put a lot of faith in them as well.
Mhm.
I'm sure they're even less happy than I am with that result.
Yep.
They're coming off a 51 and 31 year with a second round exit in the playoffs, and they are projected to finish fourth. I'm going to let you go through this because you did most of the research, and don't want to misrepresent any of your thoughts. And then we'll talk a little bit more after you do that, if you don't mind.
Well, again, this is another one of those teams that basically has everybody signed for next season. So they're going to be pretty much running it back again. And New York's always there. They've been there for the last couple seasons. If you look through their history, they've got where's my they had 51 last season. They had a down season the season before that, 38, but then they had 62, 61, 60 wins. So they always seem to be able to find it. And it's not about it's about reloading. I mean, they're not retooling, they're reloading every single season. Next year, they really don't have to because besides Willie Gazard being at the point guard, everybody is re-signed for next season, and so they should be able to kind of just run it back. So you've got the key players. You got Blackwell, you got Jones, you've got McCrary, you got Berlin, and you got Kent, and they're all going to be back next year. Um, they but the question going forward, of course, is this a playoff team, or are they just going to be okay with winning 56 games in the regular season? A lot of teams, they want to do well in the playoffs. A lot of teams just want to be there and do that sort of thing and run it back and run it back. Like I said, they won a championship a couple seasons ago, so they know that they can win the playoffs. But is this particular group of players, are they good enough to make a deep run in the playoffs? We'll see. I didn't see really a true superstar among the guys that they had there. They have a lot of really good players, but they don't have a guy that you can say, I want to win this series, so I'm going to put it on your back. Like I said, for my team, it's Dean. I mean, if I want to win a series, I just say, Dean, go out there and win me a series, and he'll go and do that. I didn't see that player on the Metros. And so, do they want to kind of go out this offseason, and do they want to trade for a guy like that? Be able to sign him as a free agent or whatever they can do. Is that something they want to do, or do they just want to keep going with what they got and try to get this group of very, very, very good players and go deep in the playoffs with them? They got most of their own draft picks going forward. Their 37 first round draft pick is a Boston protected pick, but other than that, they have all their first round picks. They're going to be over the cap next season by 23 million, but they'll be under the first apron. It's not a horrible place to be, as you said. They'll still have that mid-level exemption to be able to sign somebody in the offseason. So they want to free up the cap space for next season. They want to. What do they want to do? How are they going to do that? Are they going to make those trades in the offseason? It's an interesting team to see because I think that they, like I said, they got a great collection of players, but not a superstar really to take them over to the next level, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think this is one of the teams where I like the players, but I feel like Kent, Jones, and Berlin, their top three salary earners. Well, no, that's not. Mihail Berlin is he's turning 30 now, but he's
Mm-hmm.
still giving you 26 points a night. It's
Yep.
really
Yep.
Jones and Kent that if you were paying them $7 million less a piece than what they actually make, I'd feel a lot
Mm-hmm.
better about it. And it's complicated a little bit in Kent's position because they have Joe Anderson as one of their
Mm-hmm.
only unrestricted free agents, and I think that young man has a brilliant future in this league. Um,
Hmm.
but the question is, if you're paying $40 million to Donald Kent, can
Hmm.
you pay what Joe Anderson's likely to get? I can't imagine Anderson gets less than the mid-level exception. So I think he's going to
Hmm.
be a $17 million player next year. So
Oh
do
yeah.
you want $57 million in 48 center minutes between Kent and Anderson?
Hmm.
And Bob
Yeah.
Jones is a solid starter, but he feels to me like a $25 million guy, and he makes $37 million, which is a tad problematic. But I think what it really comes down to is Justin Blackwell,
Hmm.
who's still on his rookie deal. Sky is the limit on this guy's talent
Hmm. Yep.
level. He's superb defensively. He'll get you
Hmm.
buckets. So far, not incredibly efficiently, but I wouldn't expect a
Hmm.
person his age to be efficient. So
Hmm.
if I were New York, I think a lot of my thoughts about the future revolve around how good is Justin Blackwell going to be in his third and fourth year.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and that's a key. That's how they're able to get those guys at the top end is they've got Blackwell because he wasn't he was what the 13th pick overall a couple seasons ago. So he's not making that top end rookie money, and he's still on that rookie contract for another 3 seasons.
and
So
I
they're
will say, in New York's defense, is they have timed these contracts well because
Mhm.
Kent and Jones and Berlin's contracts will all be over before Blackwell gets paid.
Yes, exactly. And they will all be done. Jones after next season, and then Kent and Berlin after the season after that, along with just about everyone else on the roster. When you
Yeah,
get to 37, I know a lot can change before we get to 37, but all the contracts are finished by then when Blackwell hits the restricted free agent market.
yeah,
So when he's going to want that max max deal for sure. I
yeah.
don't think he's going to sign for anything less.
No, no, especially if he keeps developing the way he has this far. A little bit of efficiency in his game, which is the normal piece of development you would expect from a young wing player.
Mhm.
He's going to be scary and a great player for them to have on the team. So I think my biggest decision will be how much are you willing to spend for Anderson, and if that takes you into an uncomfortable budget stratosphere, who can you move to save enough money to keep Anderson on your roster?
Yep, yep. And there's a lot of people that can be moved, and a lot of people that on this team, a lot of players that have value. So there is moves that can be made. So this will be an interesting offseason for the Metros going forward, and all the teams that we've talked about today. There's just so many options and so many different directions that they all can be going in.
Yep. So
And, yeah.
looking forward to our next podcast. I think we're probably going to take a week or two off, probably at least a week. I'm moving a
Mhm.
kid to college next week, and I won't be available.
Congratulations.
And we have more rounds of the playoffs to get through anyway. Um, so we will be back probably week after next with the final 8 teams to go over. Um,
Mhm.
I was joking in our podcast chat that I had gone ahead and picked a couple teams that looked like they might not get out of the first round to do their previews early, which I thought would guarantee at least one of them would then win in a first round upset. So Philly, you guys are already done, but I don't get to talk about you until you stop beating people. So, but please continue your Cinderella run because it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. These playoffs are going to be extremely fun to watch as we move through the second round and into the conference finals and into the overall finals for the SIBA championship this season. And we got some good teams that are still alive in this tournament, and it is going to be fun to watch. So over the next week or so, as the games keep on being played, so by the end of this week, we should be done with round two, and then next week should be done with the get the championships going and then the end of the final. So we will see you once all that gets completed. And we will have 8 more teams because there are 8 teams left in the playoffs to talk about and what they're going to do going forward, along with celebrating whoever makes it out as number one in SIBA. Who's it going to be?
And do yourself a favor and log into Philly and New Jersey and look at the rotations and strategies. And after
Mhm.
each sim, recheck those and see the moves that they're making and track how these brilliant strategy or tacticians rather do their trade.
Yeah, they are the best that we do it. I just kind of let it run and make some minor tweaks along the way. These guys make wholesale changes and really know how to get under the other team's skin. So that series, I think, is going seven. I'm
I
saying
sure
it now.
hope so. I want to see every game of it.
Going seven. So Kelly, you got to make sure to record those games so we can watch them going forward, because they are a thrill to watch. Okay, guys, thank you very much for tuning in and sharing going through. I hope you enjoyed this. I think we went what 55 minutes or so, somewhere around there. So we did a good job. We definitely were very detailed about these eight teams that just came out of the playoffs. And we'll see whether they follow what we say or they go their own direction.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Mhm. And we
Jeremy.
will see. Thank you, Van. It's always been a pleasure. Soph, behind the scenes, thank you very much, and Kelly for everything you do. It has been great. I know, running that last sim with the comp with in round one with all those game sevens had to be a pain in the you know what because you had to record all those games. But we appreciate for you for doing it, and thank you very much for everything that you guys do. And again, like I said, I'll say it again. So thank you very much for putting all this together, making us look halfway decent, as good as we can. Van, thank you very much for your part, and we will see you next time on the Dirty South SIBA podcast.